The story is told, though who can say if it be true, of a clan of medieval warriors awoken in modern-day Manhattan, of the animated series that told their story.
It is an age of darkness. Superstition and the sword rule. It is an age of fear. It is the age of gargoyles.
Welcome to Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast.
Welcome back, Gargoyles fans, to another episode of Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Greg Bashansky, and joining me as usual is my partner in crime, my co-host, Jennifer L. Anderson.
Hello, everyone.
How are you today, Jen?
Doing good. Staying cool.
Great. I'm not. It's hot over here. Very hot. And rejoining us, as usual, is the creator of Gargoyles and the producer of the first two seasons of Gargoyles, Mr. Greg Wiseman.
Hello, everyone.
How are you today, Greg?
I am good. I'm working on the script to Demona 5 right now.
Excellent, excellent.
Nice.
And rejoining us, we're happy to welcome him back, the writer of this episode and the story editor of this episode, Carrie Bates, who is not on camera.
But I'm here in spirit.
And in voice. How are you today, Carrie?
Good. I don't want to tell you this, but it's only 62 here, so get your heart out.
I wish. And you heard him laughing. We'd like to introduce to the show for the first time Matt Parker. He's a longtime fan. He's been in the fandom since the 2000s at least, and he's a biologist. He's run a few biology panels at gatherings, and he's one of the top editors over at the GargWiki. Matt Parker, how are you today?
I'm great.
Thank you for coming on.
You started in the 2000s? You weren't there in the 90s? I feel like you were there almost since the beginning, practically.
I was thinking about that. I think I discovered Ask Greg and Station 8 Comment Room. I think that was in 2000 because I was a little slow to find the rest of the fan base. I was kind of on my own for a bit. So those early gatherings were not on my radar at all. So.
Well, we picked you up along the way.
Yeah. Well, once I found you guys, that was it. I was done.
Excellent.
Line and sinker.
A little bit of addendum to some news we recorded, which turned up on our recording of the Green and our news and first impressions. When we recorded that, we said you talked about the whole situation with Dynamite and Diamond. The day after we recorded that, the day after, Dynamite dropped Diamond as their distributor, and they went with Lunar. So as of this recording, which means hopefully you'll have it by now, Demona Issue 1 is due out on July 9th, the physical release. The digital's still up there. You can go get it, but also go get the physical, support your local comic shop. So hopefully this is all resolved itself.
That would be nice.
We're going to jump into the episode, and we're going to chat with everyone a little bit, but let's talk a little about. This is a pretty monumental episode. In some ways, it's a little bit controversial because you know how some fans can be about certain things, but introducing Nokar and aliens into Gargoyles. And the reason why I say that is it makes sense to me, but I found that there's some people in this fandom who found it jarring because they believe it clashes with Gargoyles' fantasy genre. But as we discussed in the past, it's really more of a superhero genre, which encompasses all of this. Greg, Carrie, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, that was always our game plan, was always that it was not just a fantasy show, but part of, no capes and tights, but in essence, this was a superhero show, which is, as we've discussed before, a mutt genre, because comics had to come out every month. Even if you're doing a character like Batman, pretty soon you start bringing in science fiction concepts. You start bringing in fantasy concepts. Batman has to deal with a fake magician. Then a few issues later, he's dealing with a real magician who actually can do sorcerous stuff. He deals with a villain from the future. The Flash was like this too, pretty much. Even, Spider-Man and the Marvel characters. Eventually, everything starts to come in because you've got to churn out a book every month, and you've got to churn through ideas very rapidly. But what that did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is create this sort of mutt genre that encompasses detective fiction and fantasy and sci-fi and everything in between, horror, crime fiction, you name a genre, and superheroes has done it. And we set out quite consciously from the beginning to do a superhero show just without any of the sort of cliche trappings of it, the secret identities and we did that too on occasion, but mostly, we didn't have the secret identities. We didn't have the capes. We didn't have the tights, that kind of thing. There was that one executive who wanted to put a big G on Goliath's chest, and fortunately, as he was pitching this to me, and I was like, that's a really bad idea. He's like, well, what about on the belt? What if we put a big G on his belt buckle? And I'm like, well, no. And then Eisner, thank God, happened to walk through the room. And he's like, what's going on here? And so the guy told him, and I could tell he was like, Eisner's going to make Greg do it. Greg doesn't want to do it. Eisner's going to make Greg do it. He's like, so you would think it'd be great if Goliath had a big G on his chest or on his belt so that, you could have a logo, in essence, that they could identify with. And Eisner turns to me and says, you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I do not want to do this. And he said, all right, we're not doing that. And walked out and just cut the legs out from under that guy, which I did actually feel a little bad for him. But not bad enough to go, okay, fine, we'll put a G on his chest. But, that was the kind of thing that people were pitching to us because we were, in fact, doing a superhero show. And Superman does have a big S on his chest. Batman has a big bat on his chest. Flash has a lightning bolt. And Green Lantern has a sort of lantern, I guess you'd have to say. It doesn't, it's sort of an artsy thing. But, Spider-Man has a big spider on his chest. It's a thing.
The superhero icon.
Yeah, and I get it. I've done Spider-Man. I've done Young Justice. I get the appeal of that, but that wasn't our show. On the other hand, all that genre bending, that really was our show. So the notion that in the world tour that we were expanding the world of the show, the universe of the show, to not just be Manhattan and some flashbacks to medieval Scotland, it was going to expand, and we were going to do well, if we're really going to expand, then, guess what? Let's give them a taste of what's really out there. 100 plus years in the future, we may be dealing with a whole new set of problems. And so the idea of bringing in an alien was appealing. And part of that was just the whole Rapa Nui Easter Island thing. Those Moai statues, the idea that there was this ancient alien astronaut, which, by the way, when I was a kid was huge. Alien astronauts. There was whole movies dedicated to this. I was trying to figure out the name of it the other night. I kept coming up with Chariots of the Gods, and I'm like, no, that's the movie about
the running.
Running,
yeah.
Vangelis score and everything, but it was a title like that. And those movies were big, and they were probably 97% bullshit, but they told to an 8-year-old a convincing story of, oh yeah, aliens helped build the pyramids, and The Search for Noah's Ark and all those kinds of films and stuff like that came out in the early 70s and mid 70s.
Greg, now we know all that stuff is true. Just go on YouTube. The aliens are here. They did build the pyramids.
Right.
I'm trying to remember.
On YouTube, you know it's true. That's why they call it YouTube. You know it's true.
Very good.
Sound like my students.
Did you have a slot for an aliens show? Did I come up with that? Because an alien hidden in Easter Island is right in my wheelhouse. So
that's why you got it. But no, that slot was there. There had been a calendar, a DC Comics calendar, where every month was the heroes on some sort of iconic location. And one of them was Easter Island. And what they were fighting were the Moai coming to life, and they were bursting out of the ground. And you thought they were just heads, but no, the rest of the bodies were all underground, and they're bursting out. You can probably find that on the internet, that image. But DC Heroes fighting these Moai, that had stuck with me again since I was a little kid. And so all those things were influences. But when it came time to like, who's going to write this one? That didn't take me a long time to sort of go, I think that's you, Carrie.
All right. We'll circle to Carrie in a moment. Jen, what did you think of this, of introducing No Car to the show?
I honestly, at this point in the world tour, nothing surprised me anymore. Like, I thought that that's what we were trying to prove here, that everything exists. So, was I expecting it? No. But did I think it was cool? Yeah. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, do you remember your thoughts when you first saw the episode?
I think I remember thinking, okay, so aliens, cool. And I think like Jen, I was surprised that they were kind of making an appearance, but it didn't bother me because it just felt the same thing, especially coming after like New Olympians and things. It was like everything's on the table now and anything's possible. And when we don't know what's, exactly true or what's happening, but anything's possible at this point. And so, yeah, I was fine for it. And, the more I found out about it later, the more I was into it too. So, yeah.
We'll talk about that in a spinoff later on in this recording. And Carrie, do you remember writing this episode? Because like Greg said, this is totally in your wheelhouse.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, though, I wasn't really that familiar with the plot even after I started watching it. And that's not really uncommon for me. I can look at old DC comics that I wrote 20 or 30 years ago, more like 30 or 40, maybe even 50. And I don't remember the story at all. It's like somebody else did it. So that's either age or my memory or both. But, it's kind of fun to watch it again. I don't think I had looked at that for at least 20 years, that episode.
It's a good episode, and I'm actually glad it was done. Like I said, I know there's some people who find it a little bit jarring. I once heard people compare it to Indiana Jones 4, which brought in aliens at the end of that. And of course, in this case, I would say something along the lines of the aliens are not the issue with that movie. That's just the thing you focus on when there's other issues with the movie. Kind of like how Jar Jar sucks up all the oxygen for Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think one of the strengths of Gargoyles was, at least I can think of 2 episodes I wrote where each one was like a dipping its toe in a genre. Like the Silver Falcon was sort of a film noir thing, and that was a departure. And then this episode was the science fiction one. And I'm trying to remember Greg, how would you classify Revelations? That's sort of a conspiracy theory thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, Revelations was sort of a cross between that and I think we talked about this at the time. There was this Avengers episode, not the Marvel Avengers, but the Patrick McNee, Diana Rigg Avengers, episode called "The House That Jack Built," and it's the idea that you're trapped in this house that's trying to kill you. There are modern versions of that. You see movies where it's a smart house, trying to kill you. But back in the days, that sort of some cross between a spy thing and horror, and then conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. Again, that's all fair game for our show. We did film noir, we did horror, we did that and everything in between. So doing a straight sci-fi thing like that was cool. I still hope that, we defied some tropes with this. There are tropes we played into in this episode intentionally, but I think, the idea is to sort of turn your tables on expectations, not from the standpoint of are we telling the story at all, but from the standpoint of how we execute it and that kind of thing. To me, I've probably said this before, ideas are a dime a dozen. That's not the hard part. The hard part's executing it in such a way that, makes people want to come back. And I watched it last night. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. Avery Brooks is terrific as Nokar, and there's fun little bits from the other guest actors, John Rhys Davies and PJ Ward and Clyde Katsutsu. And so, and to me, what I really liked about it, and I don't know how much of this was me and how much of this was Carrie, I just don't remember, but it was like an alternative meeting of Goliath and Elisa. We saw how they met the first time, and one big thing their relationship had going for it is that the first thing Goliath does almost immediately after meeting her is save her life. That's a good foundation for a relationship, You feel pretty.
It's a good thing she fell off the building. That's what I was thinking as I watched it this time. It was a good thing she fell off the building the first time. She would have shot his ass.
Yeah. Well, again, there's a difference between, hey, the first time I'm meeting you, I'm going to save your life. Or, as in this case, the first time I'm meeting you, I'm going to kidnap you. That's got a very different vibe to it. It's
very violent, meet cute.
Yeah. And I do think it's sort of incredibly cool that they let us get away with her shooting him. I mean, there are no bullets in the gun, but she pulls the trigger on him.
I gotta point something out. For many years, it's on DVD and it's on Disney Plus intact, but on Disney XD and Toon Disney for many years on cable, they censored the hell out of that.
That's too bad.
But they also wouldn't let them say terrorist either, so.
Nope. A lot of things. But I definitely agree with that new quote unquote first meeting. We're definitely going to dive more into that shortly. But I want to begin with something that I appreciated about the episode, which jumped out at me this time in the best way. And Jen and Matt, I'm curious as to what you're going to think about this also. I appreciate that Nokar has a line that says that the natives erected the monoliths in honor of him. Not that he built them or that he erected them, which is what a lot of these conspiracy theories say. I find a lot of that is designed to almost take away from the ingenuity and genius of these ancient people.
After he got done building the pyramids, he was tired, and so he just let the island people do it this time. So
I gotta wonder, what was he thinking while they were spending so much time and effort building all of these faces of him? Because maybe it's a cultural thing, but if I was like this alien on this island and these people started just building giant Moa faces of me, it would be a little like, okay.
What it was making me reflect and think about was in Return of the Jedi when they think C-3PO is a god.
Right.
Like I felt like it was like that.
And I'm not an expert on Rapa Nui or anything, but I've heard thoughts that, part of the reason these people disappeared is because, they deforested the island and put all this effort into building all these things, and they kind of were like a ecological menace on their own island or something. And I don't know what happened in Gargoyle's universe. I don't even know what happened in our universe with that, but it feels like if they were driving themselves to extinction, I don't know if Nokar was just watching this happen and being like, well, but no matter what, it seems a really strange thing to watch the people maybe do that. But, maybe for him, it was just, a nice gesture, and he left it at that. I don't know.
Well, maybe he gave them the tool, some kind of anti-gravity chisel or something, so they could do it quickly.
Yeah. I mean, like Bashansky was saying, it's like you don't want to take away from their accomplishments, but in some ways it would make it better if he was helping them, just because it's not so much effort on their part. But if he's helping them, it's like, why are you helping them make faces of you?
You, yeah.
Are you? It's very much a C-3PO God thing.
He was lonely, and he would be lonely again for a very long time.
Yeah. He hasn't seen any of his people in a really long time.
This one looks like my dad.
Yeah. Just take a look around. It's like you're surrounded by your family,
I looked it up. Apparently, there are literally 900 of those statues on that island. I had no idea there were so many.
Makes you feel less bad that they destroyed one or two in this episode.
Right.
We're always destroying things. Hindsight, it really disturbs me.
It's ink and paint. It's fine. But no, I do agree. I loved Avery Brooks's performance as No Car, and I love the effect on his voice. I feel like it's not quite the Anubis effect, but there's a second, much
It's
higher.
a second. It's like it's sped up. It's a little sped up like version of his voice that's underneath it. Whereas like I felt the Anubis was like over the top of like louder and bigger, and this one's just release underneath it.
I remember always thinking it felt like it was coming through technology, but then when he takes the mask off, it's still his voice, and so it kind of gives it that alien sound. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what we did, but I do know that Avery's voice is so great that it didn't require a lot. A little effect would go a long way because he already sounds. I mean, it's so low. It's great, playing him and Keith off each other because, that's just. It's pretty otherworldly right there, just with the two of them,
Greg, was this
It also
before Deep
serves to
Space
sort of
Nine?
make Elisa, who's the focus of this episode, feel even more real to me, and so I liked how that plays out. She's sort of trapped between. I mean, she's got this great line: "He messed with my head, you messed with my head." She's got to know the truth, and again, I also like that in the end. No Car is fairly reasonable. I mean, he's pretty unreasonable for a big chunk of the episode, but when push comes to shove at the end, he's like, all right, well, then I have to believe in you. I have to trust you.
Carrie, it was after Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. No,
It wasn't.
Thinking, what year did DS9 end? I thought that was.
Yeah, I think it was still going.
Yeah, I think it didn't end till like the mid '90s.
1998, I think. Yeah.
But it was definitely going. He was one of our gets where it's like, can we get someone from every Star Trek show? We got
that too, but
Kate Mulgrew, and we got Cole Meany and Avery Brooks, and this was after we'd already gotten Nichelle, and we had already had
Yeah, it went from 93 to 99.
Yeah, it was ongoing.
Yeah.
And we were talking last week, that Peter Morwood passed away, and we've got two characters here. We've got Dr. Arthur Morwood Smith, who was named after Peter Morwood, and Arthur Byron Cover, who was Lydia Morano's husband. And then you have Professor Lydia Duane, who is named after Lydia Morano, one of our regular writers on the show, and Diane Duane, another writer on the show who we had on some weeks ago. And so I don't, the timing is just coincidental, but it gave me a moment of the feels there last night when she was introducing everybody.
Me too. Me too. Peter was such a great interview, and we've talked about it a lot, but it was great. And again, it kicked me in the feels also, but it was nice to see. And I always thought that, okay, they're not in this episode, but while we're on the topic, that Peter and Diane Maza were named after them as well.
I don't think that's true unless maybe Michael did that. It's possible now that I think about it. It's really, maybe Bryn would know, that Michael chose those. I mean, I don't remember who chose the names, but I know I wouldn't have named it after them. So if they were named after them, it must have been Michael who did that. And he's gone, so we can't ask him, but Bryn might know. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big coincidence otherwise, so the odds are fairly good. I know that later I was sort of fascinated by the fact that, I had named Petros Xanatos. I'd given Petros the first name Petros, and then after the fact sort of thought, oh, Lisa's dad is named Peter, and Xanthos' dad is named Petros. I like that coincidence. I mean, it's sort of cool. And so, sometimes we did stuff like that on purpose, and sometimes it just snuck up on us.
Yeah. Good episode. And we were talking about this a little bit before the show, how I love how alien everything feels. That ship feels very alien. All the technology, all the little robots walking around. It's very otherworldly, beyond what you might see on most, and I mean, obviously live action sci-fi, they're limited by budgets, but even beyond a lot of what you would see in animation. So and Matt remembers we struggled with naming these things on Gargwiki when we were writing the entry on No Card Ship. But
snake gun.
We call it snake gun.
Snake gun laser
tongue
thing.
weapon.
Yeah, at one point I think we called it the tongue laser.
Of course, the tongue laser.
Going off what Bashansky said with that is what I love with really good science fiction is if you look at stuff in the future, it should look like magic to you. And I think too often in a lot of sci-fi shows, it's very understandable. It's like, okay, this is an advance, but it's just a computer. Or this is an advance, but it's just a robot. But a lot of Nokar stuff, it doesn't make any sense to us. And it's technology, or at least we presume he's not using magic, but it looks like magic from what we've seen in the show. It's like, what is that even doing? It's this thing that's following Bronx around, and then all of a sudden it turns into a blaster, and then all of a sudden it's not that at all. It's him, and it's like, what is this? And so I love that the technology is indistinguishable from magic to us, and that to me makes it like, this is really advanced tech that we do not understand at all. It is magic to us. And I thought that was really cool.
I love that you think of it that way. You don't think, well, they're just all over the map here. They don't know what the fuck.
It was also all over the map. So
in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that, you've got to credit Bob Klein with, because this was, he directed the episode and would have guided the design work on it as well. And some of it, Carrie, I mean, I don't know if you have any memory of it, but some of it would have come right out of your script, I assume. I've still got copies of those scripts, but I haven't looked at those in a long time.
I don't know how much detail I went into as far as descriptions. I just know, looking at it now, like Matt was saying, I think it's more impressive that the stuff couldn't be related to anything we have in technology, because that's one of the drawbacks of the original Star Trek. As good as it was, obviously, the communicator was just a flip phone. I mean, it didn't really look that much different, even though it was supposed to be 100, 200 years in the future.
Yeah, except there were no flip phones in 1960.
The flip phones, look, we're in the
based on
future.
communicators.
I mean, we got there, didn't we, after maybe 40 or 50 years? And
thanks to Star Trek, we got there.
Yeah, no car. I don't know how we're ever going to get to that level. I don't think Apple's got anything on the drawing board like that.
You have to want it, I guess.
Yeah. I was wondering
we don't want that tongue robot enough yet. So
but I did like the little robot that was just sort of crawling around in the background.
Like, I think we could have
robot. Why? I don't know why, but they put it in there. I mean, that's a design someone had to do, and then someone had to animate it. And those were choices that people made.
It's like those robot vacuums.
Yeah.
We're allowed. It's a Roomba.
It's his only friend.
As they made in that spaceship, they're going to need a whole bunch of those things.
Going to need some repair work on aisle 3.
But I probably thinking how one even writes a script like this. But then I stopped and thinking, I'm a big reader, but I haven't read as much science fiction as I probably should have. Jen, I'm sure you've probably read a ton of science fiction. I'm sure there's been a ton of crap like this that's turned up in.
Frankenstein was the beginning of science fiction.
Yeah.
It's just, imagine what you would love to see happen and find a weird way to make it happen.
Agreed. And this episode totally highlights the advantages of animation over live action. Just imagine a live action version of this. It would blow the budget completely.
The cardboard and LED lights. What do you mean budget?
Oh, Patrick Stewart will act in front of it and he'll sell it.
Those things walking around would really be Roombas. They would just put Roombas roaming around.
But we talked about it a little bit, but Elisa's amnesia, again, usually whenever they do amnesia, I kind of shake my head a little bit most of the time because it's very often it's done in a way that does not feel authentic. Or I mean, I remember when Spider-Man 3 came out and they did the whole amnesia subplot with Harry Osborn, and there was nothing about that felt like it worked. And I love the first two movies, but Jen?
Just like it's been in the past overused as just a plot point kind of thing. So, but I think it was done well in this instance because there's a really good logical reason for her to still have all her functionality and stuff, but just not remember the past, like who she is and who these big people, purple people are, and so I think it works really good here.
I'm totally laughing, but what do
I? I mean, no, I agree, because usually when in cartoons when amnesia is dealt with, you're lucky if it's a few degrees away from Fred Flintstone getting bopped on the head and thinking he's a crime boss.
But darn bowling ball in the closet.
But anytime amnesia's been utilized on this show, I mean, with Demona and Macbeth, it was through magic. Here it's with No Cars technology, and I appreciate that instead of just them taking a blow to the head and all of a sudden.
Right. See, I like that. No, like you just didn't get conked in the head. Like there was science involved that did this.
Yeah, I mean, usually I'd say modern day, they're still using the trope of amnesia. And I would say that it's a tough one to not play as a cliche and kind of awful. I mean, I've seen a lot of people do it well, but I've seen a lot more not do it well. But now it's all about emotional trauma. They've been through something. And I thought it was interesting that even back in 93 or whenever Carrie wrote this, Dr. Anada's like, I'm guessing that this is emotional trauma. I'm no psychiatrist, but I really think we should have you checked out by my neurologist brother in Honolulu. And then, Goliath.
That's a hell of a house call.
I'm not letting her go to Honolulu.
Booking that.
That's not happening. I was fine listening from the balcony up to this point, but if you're sending her off the island, then I'm going to interview. And she's going to shoot me.
Yeah, we talked about that first meeting from her point of view, but I love all of this from his point of view. He's trying to hold it together for both of them, but this is tearing him up. He's clearly devastated, and he's trying to hold it together for her sake as well as his. And Jen, what do you think of that whole new first meeting between them?
Goliath is so like in his. Like if it's a battle and he has to go in there punching and stuff, he's so sure of himself. But now like this is Elisa, and now she doesn't remember who he is, and he's like stumbling over his words, and it really got to him, and it's a nice, like he still keeps it together, but you can tell he's having a time with it.
That was the thought I had, is that it's like on the edge of panic at one point, just like this, I don't know how to fix this.
Yeah.
And I love this one moment he had, where you just get this glimmer where he's not sure how far he should go. And he's saying like, we're friends, we're good friends. And then he just stops and he's like, we're traveling. it's like, how far were you willing to admit to her to get it, like jog her memory or whatever? And he didn't take it that far, but I thought it was like sweet and just really devastating, because I think he's panicking.
Our girls with benefits.
Yeah.
Don't get out of the story. Get there, not yet. I also think it's interesting to look at this from Elisa's point of view. I mean, we talked about, and I'm not kidding about it. Obviously, it's much better if your first meeting involves someone saving your life than trying to kidnap you. That's the big thing. But I also think a big part of this is that Elisa is fundamentally, to me, a character who's comfortable in her own skin, who knows who she is. And when that's true in Awakening Part 2, way back at the beginning of the show, sure, the life-saving, God knows that helps, but she's comfortable enough to sort of take in who he is and not be disturbed by it. I think that people who are comfortable in their own skin have less problems with the other. Okay, that person's not like me. That's okay. I don't need everybody to be like me, that kind of thing, because I'm comfortable with who I am. I think it's people who are less comfortable in their own skin, less self-knowledge of who and what they are, that have the sort of knee-jerk fear reaction. So when you take Elisa and she's still got her instincts, she's still got her emotions, she's still got all this stuff, but you've ripped this knowledge out of her, at least temporarily. And suddenly she isn't comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't know who she is. And so it's a lot more difficult for her to be accepting of something as freaky as an 8.5 foot tall lavender, monster. That's a very different, it's not just the life-saving versus kidnapping. It's also, where is she at in herself that I think interferes with that. And then I think, Carrie, you did a great job at sort of gradually, she's suspicious of the guy. She's just starting to trust him. And then No-Car shows up again and makes things worse. Not on purpose, but that's what he does. And she's like, I was just starting to trust Tiny. I also get a huge kick out of her.
Tiny.
Yeah. Really hilarious. And I find how much it grates on him, even. It's not my name.
Not
Greg, second time she calls him Tiny, that was you, right?
What?
That second time she calls him Tiny just before he's taken away, I swear to God that was you putting it in there. I might have come up with Tiny in the first place, but that to me struck at your sense of humor.
Yeah, it may have been. I mean, I do. Yeah. So I think we've talked about this before, although maybe not recently, is that, the writers go first, then the story editors do a pass on what the writers do. In this case, Carrie was writing and story editing, so that was him. And then I always did the final pass before it proceeded forward. So, I might, if there's something that's really working for me, I might push it a little more. I might add a whole subplot about jalapeno peppers. You never know what I'm going to do. If I don't specifically remember, but it's very possible that if you put the Tiny thing in there, I might have really loved it and kept it going as a runner, as opposed to just leaving it be. But the thing that makes it work for me is what Sally and Keith do with the lines. It's not just that they're there; it's that you've got these two actors who, by this time in our show, have such a great rapport with each other, and having them bounce off each other in character is just it's a joy.
Love it. Now, let's talk about No-Car's response to them. He believes that they are alien invaders, and I gotta say, I love that entire monologue Angela has, because she just left Avalon a few months ago. Now she's talking about alien invaders, space fleets, and everything, and she's come a long way, and she hasn't even gotten to New York yet.
It's a steep learning curve.
But she's just the gargoyle to keep up.
So No-Car believes that they are aliens, and
so has No-Car, I have a question. Has No-Car ever seen a space spawn? He just thinks that these are representatives or sent from the space spawn?
Yeah, he thinks this is an alien race he's unfamiliar with working for the space spawn.
I've always
He knows what the space spawn looks like, but he doesn't know all the little, subservient,
sure.
or at least he assumes he doesn't know all the little subservient, he's been there for centuries on Earth. So, okay, maybe the space spawn encountered this race on some planet. Now they're sending them here as their servants, that kind of thing. Yeah. So he took it for granted just because he's been in this one location on Earth, which is fairly isolated location, all things considered. And so, there were no gargoyles on Rapa Nui ever, I guess. So,
Spoiler alert.
yeah. So, so he never knew that gargoyles existed on the planet, and one assumes he's been sort of listening to global news reports and stuff like that from the humans. But, from the human standpoint, they don't believe in gargoyles either. And, if this would be a very different episode if it had been post Hunter's Moon, then he might have gone, oh, that's what these things are. But, it's not. So he has no idea. Gargoyles being as under the radar as they are to the modern world means that he has no knowledge of them. And so he knows what the sentient race is on Earth. They're humans. These aren't humans, i.e. they must come from space, and they're not my allies, so the odds are they're working for the space spawn.
I also feel, though, that he wanted to find them to be a problem. Like,
Give himself a purpose.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I keep thinking, and this is my science brain, he's got this technology. I feel like if he had just scanned their DNA, it would be clear that they were related to life on Earth, at least as far as we know. And I think he just didn't do that because I don't think he wanted that. I also think we see him right at the beginning. He's watching them arrive at the island on a skiff wearing loincloths, and he's thinking, oh, aliens from space. And, maybe, but it just seems like he's ignoring some facts to make a narrative for himself, so he has maybe more of a purpose or something.
He could have also waited for
strangely, the
memory to come
Nakai just
back.
never did DNA research. They just that's just not an area of science that they're busy on tongues of death,
Tons of that,
and
right.
have not actually done much in terms of genomes and stuff like that.
Might be.
Oh, you said. Sorry, there was a little bit of. You said the name of their race just a second ago. Oh, this is something you've said online before. I think it's the first time in the podcast. Just so the people don't know, what Snow Cars people called?
The Nakai.
The Nakai. To piggyback on Matt's point, he could have also waited 24 to 48 hours with them in captivity for at least his memory to fully come back, and then sorted things out. He was ready to execute them.
Yeah, that's not good.
And I think Elisa was like, hey, that's not good.
Yeah.
So
Her instincts. But and I believe this is a point you made, and I can see this. No car. It's a lot like those forgotten Japanese soldiers in the Pacific Theater fighting a war decades over.
Yeah, I don't know if that was ever true, but that was a big TV myth. Like episodes of The $6 Million Man or something like that. They'd land on this island in the Pacific, and there'd be some Japanese soldier who would,
I'm sure that happened on Gilligan's Island too.
Yeah, that too. I'm sure. Who thinks that World War II is still going on, and and so the thing here is that the point that gets made by both Elisa and Angela at different times in the show is, for all we know, that war ended centuries ago, and they just forgot to call him home. Or the Nakai lost and there's no one to call him home or something. We don't know. I know, but we don't know.
We don't know.
Right. And that was one of the tropes that we were playing towards, is that, let's take that idea, which again, I have no idea if that ever happened in real life. Like, did that ever happen, or was it just an idea that kept being done in TV show after TV show after TV show? But that trope was something that we were intentionally sort of doing a sci-fi twist on. If you're on this island for that long, you're going to get a little nut. And I think, as Matt said, you're going to want to find a reason to justify all this time you've spent, on Sentinel. And so I think No Car is, a bit of justifying his existence by fighting those evil aliens, only to discover that, oh, wow, sorry, they're not.
Hiru
My bad.
Onoda continued fighting for nearly 29 years after the war's end in 1945.
There really was someone who did that?
Yeah, carrying out guerrilla warfare in the Philippines until 1974.
Wow.
Jen and her amazing Google foo. She's always on top of things.
The curiosity. I'm so glad the internet exists, because it's so much easier than carrying around encyclopedias with you.
Yeah,
Indeed.
let's see if you're still glad the internet exists once Skynet descends on all of it.
Any day
I'm
now.
already AI is already making me regret it a lot.
I suppose this could also lead into our talk of the spin-off. There's a little bit more in the episode, but who exactly are the Space Spawn? I know there was a Gargoyles 2198 spin-off planned, and you did a contest about that and asked Greg over 2 decades ago, and Matt was one of the 2 winners.
Right. So Matt can tell us about it.
It's kind of interesting because there was 2 winners. The contest was you posted this big document with lots of missing words about this spinoff, Gargoyles 2198, and we were supposed to guess the words. And there was a prize for the person who guessed the most right words, and there was a prize for the person who guessed the last word. And what's interesting is when I stumbled into Ask Greg Station 8, that contest was ongoing. I think this was around 2000, and I had no idea what I was seeing. It was just list of numbers and words and stuff, and I was like, I don't know what these people are talking about. And I did some reading about it, and I went and looked what there was. And around when I joined and when I was learning about all this, I saw that there was like 1 word left that everybody was struggling with. And I was just like, and I still remember the word, it was rebooted. And I said, oh, it's probably like rebooted. And I was like, I'll just go ahead and enter it in. And lo and behold, that was the last word. And I remember, Greg, when you announced the winners, you're like, here's who got the most and here's whatever. And then you said, and then there's Matt, who also gets a prize, even though it's the only word he got. And I was like, that's because when I stumbled upon this contest, it was the only word left. So kind of a stroke of luck on my part. But
What was the prize? I have no memory. I mean, I remember
actually, just 20 minutes before we started this, I went and pulled it out. You mailed me the completed document, but you added a bunch of, there was more information than was in the contest. So there was stuff about, what really got me interested was there was a bunch of stuff about the clans that exist in 2198 and some more information on them. And there was a lot of information that was really new, which was bizarre because I was like fairly new to the fandom at the time. And I was one of these 2 keepers of information that nobody else had. And I was like, a lot of responsibility, it felt like at the time. At this point, I mean, we're talking 25 years ago. Pretty much all this is, I think, disseminated out into the fandom, but it was kind of cool at the time. So yeah, there it is, what you sent me. And there's where you wrote, which was also weird because I barely knew who you were. And you sent me this and you said, Matt, hope you like the prize. Let me know what you think, Greg Wiseman. And I was just like, okay, how? I guess online. I'll let you know. So here we are 25 years later. I think it's great. That's what I think. So
cool.
I think you should go ahead and make it. How's that?
That's totally up to me.
I thought you were just waiting on my go ahead, and
That's it. I've been waiting for 25 years for Matt to finally get okay.
I finally got around to reading it, and I'm thinking I think I'm going to green light this. So let's go Disney Plus. Let's do this.
Honestly, that one always made the most sense to me to do on television as a spinoff out of all of them. I feel like it takes place far enough down the line that it has the least amount of baggage, but also enough intrigue to make you curious for more stories between 1997 and then.
Yeah. I think it'd be great.
I think it'd be great. I mean, when we're talking about New Olympians, when I think about the spinoffs I want most, Gargoyles 2198 is usually number one. I really would love to see it. So, but tell us a little bit about what the spinoff would have been, Greg and Matt, both of you.
Greg,
well,
go
ahead. I don't give out spoilers anymore, but anything that I've already posted, I guess is okay. It's fair game. And most of, if not all of what I'm about to say, I'm sure you could find it Ask Greg with just a little bit of digging.
Or on the Garg Wiki, probably.
Yeah. So the basic idea is that in the year 2198 is a hatching year for gargoyles. And because gargoyles hatch in generations every 20 years, like clockwork. And so at that point, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but is there 12 clans then? 14?
There's
I think
12 clans
at the beginning.
starting number 13.
Right. So they've gathered the eggs together and they're going to launch a 13th clan. And at this point, the gargoyles the Gargoyle Nation is an independent nation with voting rights in the United Nations. And so they gathered all these gargoyle leaders, clan leaders, and all these eggs in one spot. And because the hatching's about to happen and it's kind of a cool every 20 years thing, there are a lot of other world leaders who also show up, human world leaders who also show up. And the space spawn have arrived, and their technology is so advanced since Nokar landed on Earth that he is not able to do his job. He can't detect them. He's still around in 2198, but he can't detect their arrival. And they grab up everybody. They grab up all the eggs. They grab up all the gargoyle leaders, clan leaders, all the human, presidents and prime ministers and this sort of thing, and basically hold them hostage and say, if you want to keep these people safe, you just give in and become our vassals. And so the show is about a small group of rebels who have to try and deal with the space spawn while not at the same time getting all these people they care about and these eggs and these human and gargoyle leaders killed. So it puts them the hostage nature of it puts them in a truly awkward position. And we had a bunch of, I think, pretty interesting characters. We had Goliath's grandson, Samson, is the lead character in the show. We had Delilah, who is descended from the gargoyle Delilah, who mixes both Elisa and Damona's DNA. We had these LXM robots that were built by the Lexington Xanatos Corporation and look like little chrome versions of Lexington, with obviously Tom Adcox doing the voice of them.
Obviously.
And we had, Zafiro, the latest Zafiro with the sapphire pendant. And then, we had Damona because she's immortal. And we had Brooklyn because he's a time dancer. So he shows up and disappears at various points throughout the series with Foo Dog, sometimes without, with Katana, not necessarily in chronological order from the standpoint of the spinoff. And so we just, it was another wild, wacky Gargoyles thing where everything in the kitchen sink occasionally gets thrown in there. But and Nokar and various other descendants of characters, and it was just, I think, a lot of fun. The origin of the whole thing is we had pitched Dark Ages, which we've now done as a comic, but we had pitched Dark Ages to CBS as a spinoff, as a prequel spinoff. And Judy Price, who at the time ran CBS Saturday Morning, said, "This is interesting, but I'm less interested in a prequel than a sequel. Instead of doing something that's a flashback to the 10th century, what if you did a flash forward to the 30th century?" I'm not sure those were her exact words. And so we came up with a show that at first we called Future Tense. But then I thought, well, that's the name of an episode. That's just going to cause confusion. So I changed the name to Gargoyles 2158. Then years later, I did some math and realized that 2158 was a really bad idea and changed it to 2198, which was put it just far enough in the future that you just wouldn't expect to see certain characters still be alive. That if it was 2158, because Gargoyles age at half speed, it was just early enough that you'd constantly be going, well, are they alive or not alive? You're not telling me. And I'm like, look, they're dead. So let me put it even further in the future so that it's very clear that, the most of the cast is gone by this time, unless there's an exception like Demona for some reason. And so there were three sort of versions of this: Future Tense, 2158, and 2198. And I feel very comfortable about 2198. And I've now built this whole, in my notebooks and in my timeline and stuff, all this 2198 material. And all I need, in case it wasn't clear, I was being sarcastic earlier, it's not up to me whether or not we do this, or even to Matt, surprisingly.
What? Matt?
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
His authority in his classroom may be absolute, but somehow
It's not.
Disney.
It's not even absolute there. So,
I'm not saying it'll never happen, because there are a lot of things that we've done in the last few years that I might have said that's not likely to ever happen. But we did Dark Ages, we did Bad Guys, we did. We're doing Demona now. We're doing a Gargoyles Fantastic Four crossover, and other things as well. So I'm not saying it'll never happen, but it does sort of require, if it's going to be a comic, for Dynamite and Disney to agree, yeah, let's do this. If it's going to be a TV show, then you need, Walt Disney Television Animation to sort of get behind it, and Disney Plus probably. And so, it's not easy to sell these things. But I wouldn't say never. It could happen, and we've teased it in the comics here and there. We've shown at least one little scene with Brooklyn and Foo Dog and Katana up against a flying saucer in 2198. So yeah, it'd be a lot of fun, but we just don't have anything even vaguely resembling a green light to go forward with at this time.
Maybe someday. But
we'll probably all be dead by then.
Well, you're all younger than I am, so
Well, thank you, Greg.
if I'm still alive, then you're probably in good shape. So, but if I go, I'm taking it all with me.
oh no.
Yeah.
But no, I do love how this episode, circling back to the episode, thank you for all of that, how it resolves itself that Elisa's instincts are ultimately what saves everybody, because at heart she knows. That was so well written. Carrie, that was beautifully written. Jen, what do you think of that moment?
Like, it's, even if she has no idea if these are good people or not, like, the idea that he's just going to kill him doesn't sit well with her. And that's very spot on for Elisa. So, I like that despite not having her memories back, she knew it was the right thing to do.
Carrie, do you remember writing any of that and your approach to that? Because that was just such a beautiful moment.
Well, I think the idea with Nokar was that because he's a superior alien, or at least he thinks he is, he doesn't have to strictly go by words. In other words, they're saying now that the big thing with real aliens, assuming you believe that's a possibility, consciousness is the big thing now, that aliens are much more adept at not just telepathy, but a whole range of psychic stuff. So it just seemed to make sense to me, even back then, that they wouldn't limit their judgment just based on something that someone says. In other words, that they could sense it. It's almost like a sixth sense, if you will, where Nokar could just tell that what Elisa was feeling was actually more important than what she may or may not have been saying. So it just seemed to make sense.
I do like that despite everything, even though we've never seen the space bomb, we still haven't seen the space bomb. We saw Flying Saucer in the comic. Maybe that's one of theirs. We don't know. But
could be one of ours.
Could be one of ours. But the picture we get is just chilling. The fact that they even have this technology that could wipe your mind like that or tamper with your mind. That's just, it's taking away your free will. That's scary.
You just see their tongue robot.
The tongue of death. That's what I wrote in my journal.
You know, you say that, and we're going to have to change it on Garg Wiki to literally say tongue of death. It's also great for blasting holes in hillsides. So, you know.
Yeah, all that damage done.
I think it's the same kind of thing as like those cannons at Macbeth's place or the ones at the Eyrie building where you could just see Owen going.
Yeah, no matter how advanced our tech gets, it's always going to shoot itself. So
I don't know. 2198, Demona might end up in control of the tongue of death at some point. You don't know. She could have fun with that thing.
Somebody's going to do that fan art now.
Don't make me.
Commission her. But no, it's a very good episode. I appreciated coming to yet another corner of the world, Rapa Nui, Easter Island. I appreciated the return of Professors Morwood Smith and Lydia Dwayne. They were fun to see again. And
Can I talk a minute about Dwayne and Morwood Smith and Arnada's extremely weird night?
Yes, please.
I gotta, when you think about this, you know, we talked about Goliath's perspective, Elisa's perspective. If you think about all this from their perspective, it's like they're driving around, they see a random woman who has no memory. They take her back to the hotel, they figure it all out, or they think they do. And then this monster comes in from the balcony, takes her away, and then they're like, what was that? And then they go looking for her, and then they find her, and they're chummy, and then they're talking to an alien. It's like,
but what's even better is Elisa takes off with the gargoyles without making introductions.
Yeah, these people are great.
These people are terrific. They were really nice to me. You should talk to them. I'm not sticking around for that, but you go for
it. Peace. That's gone.
So when
I also kind of wondered, Goliath must have gotten the Avalon spell out just under the wire before the sunset, because you can see the mist coming up. They're clearly heading to Avalon, which is good, but she has no memory, so she couldn't have given this spell.
Right.
And the other three are stones. I'm like, who the fuck gave that spell? And it's like, it must have been
storm. They're going into a Pacific storm. It's not a mist. You see, like, sleeping gargoyles mind wipe Elisa, and they're just going right into a storm, like a hurricane.
Avalon's
about a cliffhanger.
Avalon's next stop, Gilligan's Island. That's where they're going to end up. It's not Avalon's Island. It's not Avalon. It's the storm that's doing it.
I kind of wonder if anyone watched this and was like, is the next episode, are they even going to make it back to Avalon? This ain't looking good.
3-hour tour.
That's how the world tour ends, folks.
Podcast over. No, we still have a bunch of episodes left, but no, it's good. I mean, Is there anything we didn't cover yet about this episode?
There are little things. I mean, I love how she's like, you threw in everything but King Arthur and the Holy Grail. Like, the story is so full of shit. You've got all this stuff, King Arthur and the Holy Grail, and he's like, we haven't encountered the Holy Grail yet. What he doesn't say is, we did meet King Arthur, but if I tell you that now, you'll really think I'm full of shit. So I'm just going to say we haven't encountered the Holy Grail yet. And that to me was, Carrie just was really funny. And so in the comics, I put the Holy Grail in so that
they would finally come across it.
Yeah. Although to be fair, Goliath and Elisa had not seen the Holy Grail, but our audience has, our fans have. So,
did we just know Matt's head is going to explode when they tell him the stories?
Not me.
Not you. Bluestone.
Bluestone.
I thought it was interesting.
Things.
We do find out later that she did tell Matt Bluestone about all this. And I mean, there's no reason she shouldn't, but it's kind of interesting. I guess he'd probably get a kick out of it more than
he would probably annoy the hell out of her until she did tell him everything that happened.
Well, I bet she kept that New Olympus secret, but this no car alien Easter Island.
There's like plenty to distract him from potentially there being a New Olympus.
Angle that in front of him a little bit. It'll be fine.
I'm sure he had a lot of questions, but no, it's a good episode. And that was a great discussion. And Jen, do you have any final thoughts on it?
It was a fun one, and I don't. Anybody who thinks wouldn't fit in with the world tour is crazy pants. So perfect.
Agreed. Again, superhero genre. This is not fantasy genre. Are you complaining about Jackal's blow dryer where his stomach used to be?
Oh my gosh.
We had fun with that last time, Matt. You haven't heard it yet.
No, but I know what you're talking about. So.
Yes. Carrie, do you have any final thoughts on the episode?
Not really. Like I said, it was like almost seeing it for the first and a half time because I didn't remember half of it, but I thought it was a good change of pace. I think I specialize in changes of pace for good or bad. Good. I promise you.
It's good.
Greg, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I pulled up the Gargoyles timeline because we were talking about 2198, and so I've got a timeline that runs from 10,000 BC to 2199,
and you guys thought we were obsessed about Gargoyles.
Yeah, and it's currently 462 pages long. So there's a lot of material we haven't covered in the show or the comics yet.
Yeah.
Like hundreds of pages that we haven't covered. And I now have a separate timeline also to cover Brooklyn's time dancing because that doesn't take place. I need to keep his personal chronology straight while simultaneously keeping. So it's complicated. And there's way more math than anyone told me there was going to be. Way more math.
Just send us these timelines and we'll help you out with it.
Yes.
That's not
one. Can't blame us for trying.
This was how long ago was this? This was like I did give Todd Jensen something. I may not have been the timeline. I gave Todd Jensen something.
Pendragon related. He won the Pendragon contest.
2001, I think, at the gathering in 2001, which is the only one I think he attended. I personally handed him something, but now I can't remember where it was.
He'll write and he'll tell us.
But yeah, so anyway, we were very consciously doing world building on this show. But the thing about the spinoff is that this wasn't written. We had a bunch of backdoor pilots, and we talked about New Olympians a couple episodes ago and stuff. But this was not designed to be a backdoor pilot. This was just an episode. But later, when Judy Price suggested doing a show for gargoyles set in the future, this was the one that I'm like, well, this makes sense. Let's pull from this to make that play. But when we made this episode, we weren't sitting there going, okay, this is another backdoor pilot. We had plenty of those, but this wasn't one of them.
That's interesting. Jen lost power. She just texted me. That's why we lost her. She's currently suffering from a power outage. So we hope her power definitely comes back on soon, because this podcast is not the same without her. And we learned that the hard way once.
But yeah, we won't record again for a couple of weeks. I hope she's not without power for weeks.
Ditto. I mean, I hope she comes back on again within a few minutes, but we're also wrapping up. So Jen, we love you. We miss you. And already, even though it's only been a few minutes at this point, but definitely catch up with you again soon. But yeah, so that seems to be everyone's final thoughts. So I guess we can begin to wrap things up. This is going to be coming out on July 11th. Does anyone have anything they want to plug? Carrie?
Nothing here. Sorry to say.
All right, Greg, July 11th. Anything you would like to plug?
Demona #1.
Again.
Definitely be out by then, I hope. And if you haven't gotten it electronically already, if you want it, it's out now electronically. But if you want the hard copy, and I recommend that because there's some gorgeous Frank Barr art in there that you're going to want to hold in your hand, then by now you should be able to get that. And I would love it if you did.
All right. And Matt, anything you want to plug?
Nope. Just enjoying my summer. I'm a science teacher and loving not working right now. So
I remember summer vacations. I miss those. I have to work.
Yeah, a real perk of this job. So
I want to thank everyone for coming on. Carrie, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Jennifer, if you listen to this after the fact, thank you for everything you do. Matt, thank you for all your work with on GargWiki and all the stuff with biology. I just want to say before you take off that I remember for a while I wasn't interested in the biology aspect of this, just because I don't have that mind for science. Even though I respect science, I respect scientists. And one day, it was the last gathering. It was the 2009 gathering. I said, you know what's the last one? I'll go sit in on the biology panel. Let's see what this was like. It was fascinating. And then it was fascinating.
The biology and what do we call it? Biology.
Culture and biology.
Say again.
Culture and biology panel.
Culture and biology panel is always one of my favorites. And the one we had in
Convergence.
Convergence last summer was so much fun.
Yeah.
The motherfucking dragon stole the show.
Hot on our mind at the time, for sure. That's not all we talked about, but that was a big one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a good one. So anyway, again, thank you for all of that. And to our listeners, thank you for everything. And tune in next time as we head to Japan for Bushido.
Thank you for listening to Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast, powered by the Spidey Dude Radio Network, located at spidey-dude.com. If you like this show, then please listen to Spectacular Radio, based on the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series, which features some familiar voices. You can also find these great podcasts: Clone Saga Chronicles, Make Mine Mayday, Amazing Spider-Man Classics, the Sal Buscema Podcast, and Books of X. All of this and more on the Spidey Dude Radio Network. And please follow us on Twitter at From Eyrie. That's From EYRIE. And join us on Patreon at patreon.com/SpideyDude Network for more exclusive content. Thank you.
That's some story, all right. Gargoyle clans, mutated brothers, magic spells. You threw in everything but King Arthur and the Holy Grail.
Yes, well, we haven't encountered the Holy Grail yet.